This training module will provide an overview of the third component to the Connecticut Comprehensive School Counseling Framework, Deliver. At the core of the Comprehensive School Counseling Framework are the services that are delivered to students. This component in the CCSCF in part focuses on direct services, the face-to-face interactions that school counselors have with their students. It also focuses on indirect services that are delivered on behalf of the student. This module will address the following: discuss the value of needs assessment in driving a school counseling program, the differences between direct and indirect services, a breakdown of direct services, which includes individual planning, responsive services, and the development of a school counseling curriculum using the new 18 student standards in addition to student competencies, a breakdown of indirect services, which includes consultation and collaboration, as well as referrals, program coordination, and supervision. And lastly, virtual considerations for the delivery of school counseling programs. As you work through this section of the CCSCF guide, please note the checklist to help you access the resources. While there will always be staples in your school counseling framework, there will also always be components that are driven by student need. These components may vary slightly from year to year and sometimes even semester to semester. Student needs assessments can be done at every grade level and should be geared towards that audience. Think about what it is that you want to know from the students. Student needs assessments should always be given with guidance in order to ensure students understand the statements. An electronic version where the data can easily be collected is preferred, but paper versions work as well. Use the knowledge of your framework for school counseling programs to guide the questions you ask. For example, if you spend time in your program working with students on transition, what is it that you need to know about their transition? One simple question may be, how is your transition to middle school going so far? Providing several different options within a range. Needs assessments are going to help you establish what individual, group, and large group school counseling lessons you are going to need to deliver. You may also think about the groups you deliver. Asking questions about key areas of development will help you to identify students in most need of groups. Universal Social Emotional Screeners, which are supported by the Connecticut Department of Education, can also be beneficial for providing support to students through school counseling programming. Identifying student concerns early is another way that the school counseling program is preventative in nature. Universal Social Emotional Screeners are an integral part of the MTSS process, which will be covered in Module 5 of this training course. In addition to student needs assessment, you might consider giving both families and teachers a needs assessment to gather information on what they think their students should be working on. Having information from all sides can really help you develop a comprehensive program. There are sample student needs assessments in the appendix of the CCSCF guide. School counselors should be using the majority of their time delivering direct services. This is the time spent with the students. Additionally, the other time is spent on indirect services, which are on behalf of the student. We will go into more detail on each of the components of direct and indirect services as we explore this module. Now let's review what direct services are offered by school counseling departments. The school counseling curriculum is a planned, written instructional program that is comprehensive in scope, preventative in nature, and developmental in design for K through 12. The curriculum is delivered to every student by a school counselor or other educators who may deliver sections of the curriculum as appropriate under the school counselor's advisement. Instruction occurs in the classroom, large and small groups, or individually. The school counselor may provide direct instruction, team teaching, or assisting in learning activities. It should be designed to give students the knowledge, habits of mind, and skills appropriate for their developmental level. This curriculum should follow a scope and sequence and focus on all three domains: academic, career, and social-emotional. The curriculum and lessons within it should use the 18 student standards and competencies outlined in the next slides and may be designed for whole group classroom lessons, as well as individual and small group lessons. Additionally, it should address students' needs. All lessons should include an assessment component to check for understanding and the knowledge and skills the students gained. Also, think about diverse learning styles and incorporate various methods into your delivery to reach the majority of your students. School counselors should think about diverse learning styles and be aware of students' modifications and accommodations as well. The CCSCF has expanded the standards in each domain, academic, career, and social-emotional, for a total of 18 student standards. When creating these standards, it was important that they aligned with student standards published by other educational groups. In order to understand the intersections between the standards, a crosswalk was generated using the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, CASEL, the ASCA Mindsets and Behaviors, original version, Career-Ready Practices, and Connecticut's Next Generation Accountability System. In addition, important skills in technology, social-emotional learning, SEL, and employability were woven in to ensure that students are getting the most from the school counseling curriculum. Each school counseling domain has 6 standards associated with it. It's important to include student competencies to guide school counselors in developing lessons and curriculum that would help to meet each standard. They are divided by standard and by grade level group. Think of the competencies as a menu from which you can choose. You do not have to use every single competency, but rather focus on the competencies that are most important for your school and your students. Another large part of the school counselor's job is individual student planning, or ISP. ISP helps students to identify their academic, career, and social-emotional goals and allows the school counselor to help students develop plans around these goals. Ideally, students would meet with their counselor to work on their plan at minimum once per year. In Connecticut, all students in grades 6 through 12 have to have a Student Success Plan, or SSP. While this is a school-wide initiative that involves teachers and other staff, school counselors play a vital role in the SSP process. School counselors help students focus on their educational and post-secondary planning and goal setting. This is an opportunity for students to highlight any work they may have done through the school counseling programming. For example, if a middle school counselor did a major career research project with students, the final product could be included in their SSP portfolio, in addition to the goal setting and planning work being done. Another area to consider when looking at ISP is how you can include and engage families in the process. Research has shown that when families are more involved in their children's education and planning, students have a higher success rate. One example would be inviting parents to individual planning meetings to involve them in the process throughout the year. Another idea is to create multiple ways to reach out to parents to invite them to important events like college planning nights and financial aid nights. School counselors also provide appraisal and advisement to students to help them understand their abilities, values, and career interest by taking a strength-based, whole-child approach. The result is that students will make more informed decisions on personal goals and future planning. Appraisal and advisement is a 2-part process. First, school counselors assist students to understand their abilities, interests, skills, and achievement. Second, school counselors make recommendations based on the appraisal of test inventories and other data. This can be done in classroom settings, small group, or individually. Appraisal is a process where school counselors work with students to analyze and assess their abilities, interests, skills, and achievement. It focuses on tests, inventories, assessments, and other data which the school counselor has to interpret, evaluate, and provide feedback to the students and families. The discussion should center on the development or the improvement of academic, career, and social-emotional goals and plans. Advisement is a process which the school counselor suggests recommendations based on appraisal tests, inventories, and other data, and have discussions with students and the families regarding decision-making and choices. It serves to expand on options and to help students realize their maximum potential. Responsive services are a large component of school counseling work. Individual and group counseling, responding to individual student issues, and crisis intervention all fall under responsive services. School counselors should be a part of crisis teams who provide student intervention. They should not be the team. School counselors play a role in providing crisis intervention to students. This may include counseling students, running support groups, providing educational information to students and/or families, calling families, connecting with a community provider, etc. School counselors also provide individual and group counseling services as appropriate for students. These may be written into an IEP or 504 plan, but should be specific and timely. Both individual and group counseling usually span from 6 to 8 weeks and are focused on a specific topic. If students still exhibit need after the 6 to 8 weeks, a referral to an outside source or other support staff may become necessary. Needs assessment data, as well as referrals from teachers and families, can be valuable in identifying students who might be in most need of these counseling services. Now let's review some of the indirect services offered by school counseling departments. These services are conducted on behalf of students. A large component of indirect services is collaboration, consultation, and referral. School counselors often spend part of their day working with other staff like teachers and administrators, as well as outside providers, consulting and collaborating in order to help students to be most successful. This may include being the student advocate at student assistance teams, PPTs, 504, and other meetings. This is important work that is done on behalf of the student to ensure student success. On occasions, it may become necessary to make referrals for students. School counselors may make a referral to outside providers and agencies, as well as to the MTSS, sometimes called Student Assistance Teams, for other school-based interventions. This is where school counselors really focus on student advocacy and being the voice for students and what they need to succeed in the school environment. Another part of indirect services is program management. It is necessary to make sure that you are taking time to develop, assess, and collect and review data as part of the program. We reviewed assessing your program and collecting data in Module 2. There are certainly situations and circumstances where providing a virtual program is necessary. As with in-person programs, the number one priority is direct student services. When designing a virtual program, it is important to review the school's crisis plan with the multidisciplinary team, best practices for virtual counseling, and the school counselor ethical codes. Be sure to consult with building and district leadership on any parameters the district has on counseling virtually with students. Whatever platform is determined to be most appropriate, ensure that ground rules for confidentiality and its limits, as well as procedure and protocol in following the duty to report any abuse or neglect, are in place. It is possible to deliver the school counseling curriculum, whether through recordings or live presentations. This is a perfect opportunity to work with classroom teachers to deliver your lessons virtually. The deliver component of the framework is very comprehensive because this is where most of the school counselor's work is comprised. Here are just a few questions to consider while developing or revising the school counseling program, whether you are working individually or as part of a team. 1. How can you create needs assessments that gather the information you need to drive your framework? 2. How will you use the information on direct and indirect services to educate your administration on what school counselors do for the school? 3. Using the new student standards and competencies, how will you revise or develop a comprehensive school counseling curriculum? 4. How will you work to increase direct services and decrease indirect services within your framework to maximize services for all students? 5. How can your department best plan for a virtual framework when needed? Let's take a few minutes to check our understanding.